apologize. We've got a very nervous witness, but seriously, is going to
Oh, I should just say briefly, before the jury comes in, I heard from one of the journalists about a comment made by the man outside the van, which is that you don't know my name, but you'll know it soon enough.
Yeah.
So.
We're good.
Yeah, okay.
Don't worry.
Let's go.
Probably wrong.
For tomorrow. Follow up what Cooper did.
Great.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to wing it.
Any consideration.
Well,
It's okay.
it's information you have.
I can assimilate.
It's rather than calling these random individual people, I'm just going to have to verify it if I ask them. And he did.
Ms. Michaels, you want to come up to the podium? I think you're still playing.
Yes, John,
Yeah.
thank you.
Right. Please come in and be seated. You may all be seated. And before you start, members of the jury, I don't think it's too early to tell you this, we're appear to be a little ahead of schedule. And so I'm probably either next Monday or possibly as early as next Thursday will give you a piece of paper with our schedule that I do want to tell you, though, that we're sticking to the same end dates. It just may be that we're ahead of schedule enough that we may be taking a short break in the middle of trial. I'll talk much more about that, and I'll be very specific with you. Counsel are doing a great job of coordinating witnesses and keeping the trial moving forward. So, but there are certain witnesses that are scheduled for certain times, and we have to keep to that schedule. So I'll keep you up to date very soon, as I say, either possibly tomorrow, but no later than next Monday, I would expect. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Just a few more, Ms. Michaels. If you can go ahead and play that through. I just want to get the time. This is the white truck leaving the back of the parking lot and taking a right.
Let's play it again.
Just play it. Yeah, there we go. So the time here is 3:06:45. Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go. You said before that you saw him go in the building. Is that correct? Let's go to the outside main entrance then at 3:08. That's about a minute, 15 seconds after we saw him or the truck leaving the parking lot. And then why don't we go ahead and switch inside the lobby then? So Otto Miller Hall lobby at 3:08:05. Can you pause it for a second? Is that appear to be the person from the truck that just we saw entering the building, then walk behind the students down that south hallway? Is that correct? And that is at 30836. Is that correct?
Yes.
Actually, does that person reappear in the lobby by your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you skip ahead to 31050? $310.50. Write that down wrong. Should pause that for 1 minute, make sure I have that one right. Actually, I'm sorry, 310.25. Okay. Does that appear to be the same person in the truck, now sitting in a chair in the lobby,
Yes.
looking at what appears to be a phone?
Yes.
Ms. Michaels, is that Tristan Cooper Roth, to your knowledge?
Yes.
Sitting in the same spot he's sitting about 15 minutes later when the shooting occurs? Can you go ahead and pause it there? And can you switch the camera that's on the top of that stairs? I believe it's Otto Miller Hall, 2nd East. And now go to 310.50. You should appear to be on the phone or at least gesturing with the phone. Okay. He leaves the building shortly thereafter, is that right?
Yes.
Switch back to the lobby at 311:35. For the record, shortly after 311:35, the person from the truck leaves the building. Is that right?
That's correct.
that the last video footage you have of him until he comes back in at 324?
Well, there'll be the outside camera, outside this, where he exits and appears across the street. And then the next video we have is him entering the building
With the gun?
with the gun.
Okay. You can pause it there. At some point, were you given information that the shooter had come to campus previously?
Yes.
What about the day before? Did you find any footage of him coming to campus on June 4th?
Yes, we did.
Do you remember which camera caught him then?
That would have been with the gymnasium camera.
At the Rome Northwest camera, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And that one, these ones have a date, so do you have that from, looks like from June 14th, 4th, 5th, and then June 4th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to June 4th. And before we get started on this one, can you just kind of, are you able to describe or even show on this map down here what we're looking at?
This is the corner of Otto Miller Hall. It should be that corner right there. So what we're looking at is this is the street that runs down to the canal, and over here is this parking lot and Brome Pavilion. So if there was a building here, it would go along here, and then there would be this parking lot. So we're looking from the parking lot this direction.
Why don't you skip to 308? Is that your understanding that's the same truck that is depicted in State's Exhibit 95? And if that car takes a left there at 308-51, is he headed back in, or is the car headed back in the front, by the front entrance of Otto Miller Hall?
Yes, please.
Okay. And 308, that's about the same time he entered the Otto Miller Hall lobby the next day, is that correct? Mm-hmm. And were you also informed, you can pause it there, at some point that the suspect had, or the defendant, Mr. Ybarra, had gone to campus several weeks earlier?
Yes, I was told.
And were you asked to see if you could find video footage of him
Yes.
on campus that day? I'm actually just going to hand you what has been already admitted as State's Exhibit, I think 5 through 10. You can just look through those briefly. Do those look like stills from video that captured his visit to campus on May 19th?
Yes, I do.
Can you actually exit out of where we're at and just show the jury where they might find those? And again, did you or your colleagues compile sort of views of campus where, okay.
Yes, we did.
So the same stills would be contained on these videos? Okay. I guess I should make clear, on June 4th, did you have, the day before the shooting, was there any other images of him entering a building, or is it just him driving by Otto Miller Hall?
To my knowledge, just him driving by Otto Miller Hall.
Just from one time. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Any questions by the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
You're on a state call Sergeant Hancock.
You ready, right? You swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Sergeant, can you state your full name and spell it for the court reporter?
Sure, it's Andrew Hancock, Hancock.
What do you do for a living?
Police officer.
Say that again?
Police officer,
Who do you work for?
Seattle Police.
What are your current responsibilities?
Currently, I'm the field sergeant for the Seattle Police SWAT team.
How long have you been a police officer?
21 years.
How long have you been with SWAT?
Almost 7 years.
What is SWAT?
SWAT stands for Special Weapons and Tactics, and they handle a lot of high-risk situations.
So what's your daily sort of responsibilities like as did you say field sergeant for SWAT?
Correct.
What do you do?
For the field sergeant is kind of the supervisor that would go, we call it downrange, but is down embedded with the officers that are in the field for any kind of given situation, whether it be a search warrant or a vehicle takedown or any kind of barricade situation. So I'm the supervisor that's kind of boots on the ground, not at the command post, but in direct connection with the officer or the commanders at the command post. So I'm kind of the downrange field supervisor.
So SWAT, do they investigate crimes? Or tell us how it's broken down the Seattle Police Department in terms of responsibilities.
Sure. So no, we don't investigate crimes, to answer your question. We are a support for patrol and also for detectives and for any aspect of the police department. But we are more of just the support role. So we don't really initiate investigations. We don't really initiate calls. We respond when officers or detectives need assistance with something maybe more high risk.
Do you and your unit have specialized training in how to respond to particularly high-risk situations?
Correct.
Presumably, all officers are trained to some extent.
Correct.
How is yours different?
We train a lot more extensively for a lot more more dangerous situations like terrorists or active shooters in particular. But we spend a lot of time just doing training, where officers have a lot of other responsibilities, answering radio calls, 911 calls, and handling traffic accidents and their daily duties as a police officers. Ours are just for support of police officers and detectives, and then training. So we spend a lot of our time training.
What's the protocol in terms of, you just indicated like an active shooter? How does that work for Seattle Police Department?
It works with any kind of call to 911 or any other intelligence information that comes as a potential active shooter or an active shooter. Officers have been trained to respond to that in a few certain ways.
But would you respond? We've already heard from a couple patrol officers who were close by, it sounds like. Are the SWAT the initial response in that situation, or is it the same as another call where patrol, whoever can get there quickest gets there?
It's whoever can get there quickest can get there. It's kind of, it varies. So a lot of times we don't have 24-hour coverage on the city, but a lot of times we are on duty. So my guys and myself were out on patrol, actually out in the field. We're listening to all the radio frequencies throughout the city. If we do hear of a weapons call or an active shooter type call, of course we'll be responding directly to that. So, but rarely are we ahead of the district officers that are already in those areas where that incident's occurring. They just happen to be at a closer proximity more often than we are. But we will be responding with them at the same time, yes.
Were you on duty and part of the response to Seattle Pacific University on June 5th of 2014?
I was.
Tell us how that evolved.
So evolved is, it goes out on tones as they would on the radio, to where it's a highly dangerous incident or high profile incident throughout the city, so the entire city will be notified for what that when something like that is happening. Of course, we hear that. We were not anywhere near the school at that time. We were down by our office, which is closer to the stadium, so other side of the downtown core. So we had to make our way up 99 and I-5 to get to the school. So we responded as quickly as we could and supported patrol once we got there.
So does everybody just run in, or what is everybody supposed to be doing?
What everybody's supposed to be doing is patrol is supposed to be establishing contact teams, and those teams can be anywhere between 3 to 5 officers that then form up their own little tactical team and enter the school or business or whatever the incident is occurring, to go in and ascertain what they have and potentially directly interdict the active shooter.
We've heard some testimony about the scene wasn't secure yet, or we're waiting for it to be secured. What's the goal? How does that work?
Well, securing a scene is a very, so the bigger the facility, the longer it takes to secure it. Securing the scene is just making sure that every room, every closet, every nook and cranny of that facility has been cleared, checked, and rendered safe, being that there's no other threats in that facility.
Tell me about their side of the response to SVU that day.
I'm sorry?
The size of the response. Were there other stuff going on in the city, or was this a pretty significant?
This would be a priority number one for everybody. Anything there's an active shooter, a situation becomes a top priority for the police department. Any kind of active scene involving a gun is going to be a high priority for the police department. So yes, any officer that was close or within that precinct, or even precinct across the bridge, would be coming to this scene.
Did you guys come and clear the scene?
We got there in the midst of the officers kind of first getting there and figuring out what they had. And a lot of these things are chaotic. You're getting lots of different information from the call takers, who are also getting different information from people calling 911. So the dispatchers are getting out as much as they can, but it's always a very chaotic scene of not sure what you have yet. So the officers were getting there and kind of feeling what they might be having at the school at that time.
So patrol responded first and was
Correct.
there first.
Correct.
What time, do you remember what time you and your unit arrived?
It was 10 minutes after patrol had gotten there, so they already got a good foothold into the building by the time we got in there.
Did you guys staff it or set up, an idea about how you're going to go in, or is there some structure to this?
Not initially, no. It's certainly whoever can get there first. The first 2 SWAT officers to get there are going to launch into the building to go support patrol and get that foothold or get that initial perimeter or secure space that we can start to work in and kind of, again, figuring out what we have and getting a lay of the land. We've never, most of the time these things occur, we don't know what the building, we've never been in this building before, so we have no idea the size of it, the scope of it, what the inside looks like, whatever. So we have to kind of go in and figure out what our plan is going to be, like seeing what we have happening in front of us.
Presumably there's command and sergeants and other folks that are all deciding how to go about and handle a scene like this.
But that initial phase is going to be senior officers, even before sergeants, and the first sergeant to get there is just supposed to take command of that initial entry into the building. Is correct.
Were you part of an actual unit that cleared parts of this building?
Yes.
Tell us what that looks like. We have a video, and I want to make sure we know which one are you guys and what that looks like.
Like I explained, first we get inside and kind of see what we have. Then we set up an initial perimeter, kind of cover unknown threats, and that would be hallways or rooms or doors, or just anything you don't know what is behind it. A potential threat could be coming back out to you. So we try to cover as many threats as possible, get a foothold into a space that you can control, and then kind of come with a hasty plan from there.
So how did you guys clear this building specifically?
When we got in the initial lobby area and they had the shooter on the ground already, there was some conflicting information, which often happens with 911 call takers and people calling 911 on different clothing descriptions and different physical descriptions of the suspect. And so at that point we were getting updated information that potentially could be other shooter involved. So we had to take that into account, that there may be still a threat roaming throughout the school. So we devised a plan with the people we had that I put patrol officers on one of the hallways on the first floor, covering down a hallway, and then sent half my team upstairs to start clearing the upstairs portion of the building, and I took a team down the other hallway that wasn't being covered, and we started clearing room to room for the first floor of the school.
Let me ask a question. the court reporter.
Yes.
You called I think, a hasty plan or a hasty plan?
Hasty plan.
Would you spell that for the court reporter, please? Or what does it stand for?
A quick, came up with a quick plan.
Okay, hasty.
Yes, sir.
Hasty, H-A-S-T-Y.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for not making me spell it.
No, you're welcome.
So were there still, by the time you guys were there, there's still people inside the building?
Oh, yes.
I guess we've seen a little of the video, and I don't want to show it all, but I kind of want to see if you can help us identify or tell us a little bit about what's going on at different times. Can you do that, Sergeant? And again, for the record, I'm going to play parts of State's Exhibit 97. So you're aware we have already seen the incident itself occurring at about 3:24, and some initial officers arrived. So I'm going to skip. To about 3:40. So it looks like the folks in blue, you're wearing black today, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Is that standard for SWAT?
Yes.
So, and the folks in blue uniforms, would those generally be patrol?
Yes.
What do detectives wear, do you know?
Suit and tie, mostly.
And this is actually, why don't you tell the jury what we're seeing there?
It looks like you're seeing some evacuation of students that were close to that lobby, in one of the rooms or one of the side rooms that officers could see from wherever their position was in the lobby, and just started evacuating them from the school.
And so you'd expect like people filing out like that is being told by officers to leave?
Correct, just trying to maintain some control of the scene.
And I think just prior to that, we actually saw one of the victims being taken out. Can I ask you something? That the suspect is still being held down there by patrol. Can you see that?
Correct.
Why would he still be there?
Again, we're just, one of the priorities of the department and at this point for the officers is life safety and then stabilizing things. So they're still kind of working under the life safety aspect of this. Again, we've had information coming out of a possible second suspect roaming, in the building itself. That's the assumption they're working under as well. So if they can evacuate people, that are close to this lobby without going too deep down that building, exposing themselves to unknown threats, then I believe that's what they're doing right there, just getting people out of potential harm's way.
So he's in custody at that point.
Correct.
And they don't see the need to move him right at that point.
Correct. As you can see, we're officers that were in that lobby now are moved out of camera view, so they're busy doing other things. So you're running out of officers very quickly there, and there other officers are covering the hallway, looking down those, watching those doors, watching down other hallways. So there's other threats happening right now that priority of moving the suspect is not necessary at this time.
We're actually looking at about 3:42:30 now. Are these guys look different?
Correct. These are my first two guys that just entered the building.
Okay, so that's SWAT.
Yes.
We're just going to watch a minute of it, and the jury will have us and can watch it, but just to get a sense of sort of what this coordinated response is like. I can actually speed it up. Let me ask, were all of the doors open, or what happens? What does clearing mean? Are you just knocking on the doors? Are you asking people to come out? Are you kicking down the doors? What's happening?
We kind of did both. We were able to gain some keys from the security there, so it opened most of the doors, but not all the doors. But yes, we're going through and checking, knocking on doors. Depends. If whatever we had in front of us, we knocked on some doors, we also opened some doors, and then yes, we had to breach or physically open some doors that the keys would not open. So we eventually checked every single door and room in that building.
So that's more SWAT coming in now?
Correct.
So if we see pictures of kicked-in locks, that's probably from you guys and not something else?
Yeah, we more pried it open than actually
Okay.
kicked it open.
Would you, if you or frankly patrol were clearing the building and knocking on doors, would you announce yourself as Seattle Police Department, or are you quiet?
We would announce ourselves, yes. Yeah.
So if there was knocking on a door and nobody said anything, that was unlikely to be, no announcement, unlikely to be a Seattle Police Department officer?
Correctly, yeah. There's, without having, we do have tactics where we do move quietly, but this is not one of them. We don't have any what they call dynamic intelligence. We're not hearing any updated calls on another shooter. We're not hearing gunshots. We're not hearing screaming. We're not getting any information that there's another active shooter going on somewhere in there. So yes, then we're more announcing our presence, announcing where we are, announcing ourselves outside of doorways before we go in, even if we're opening them ourselves, and get just comfort people and get people to come to us, because not only these people be locking themselves in rooms, but then they'll be hiding themselves in those rooms as well. So we want them to come to us once they hear that the police are there to get them out.
In different periods of this video and from the building, there's students with their hands up or being patted down or sort of being let out like this. What's the purpose of that?
Again, we're still in a very early stages of this scene, and again, it's very chaotic. So you're still not crystal clear or sure who or who may not be involved or another shooter in this. And oftentimes, from our training, we've seen these shooters will embed themselves with some of their victims to either escape or to get access to more victims. And so we're just making sure that no one else is carrying any weapons before we just escort them out of the scene that they may be involved in.
I think even in your report you indicated the rooftops were clear. You guys cleared the rooftops as well, and how did that come about?
Correct. Again, we just, any door we could find, we're opening and then marking which ones we have checked off on. So certainly anybody could potentially gain access and hide on a rooftop, and so we're just making that building secure and safe from top to bottom.
So we heard testimony that actually the initial responding officers asked the suspect, "Are you with anybody? Is there anybody else?" And he said, "No." I don't. Did you know that, or you just, regardless of that information, it's your job to clear the building?
And regardless of information, we're going to clear that building. It's just to be 100% sure and safe. We're going to take our time and clear that building.
What happened to all the students or potential witnesses? Do you know anything about sort of how officers were in contact with them or obtained their statements?
No, I did not.
Okay. So what happens at the end of this when you go through and your guys say it's clear? What happens to a scene like this?
So what happens to this is once we establish these safe corridors and we start clearing all these rooms and pushing people out to this lobby and then out to the waiting officers outside, and they all get talked to by the officers or statements to the officers at that point. We'll go through and clear that entire building, like I said, top to bottom, and then we'll go back and sweep it a second time as well and really look hard for anybody that might still be hiding. And then once that is completely done, we will, and it took hours on this particular building to do that, then we would call that scene secure and turn it over to incident command at that point.
Okay. And so you turn it over to a different part of Seattle Police Department?
Correct. We will not lose control of this building. They will maintain security of this building so no one else gets in, and then they will start a log on who else comes in and out from that point. So it's still a very controlled scene, and then detectives will start processing, deciding what direction to go with it next.
Okay. So this would have been turned over to detectives at some point? Okay. Just one moment. Sergeant, I appreciate your time. I think that's all the questions I have.
Cross-examination?
No questions.
All right, thanks, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Want to stand and stretch?
Paul Thomas Lippert.
Here's your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
There's a little thing of water next to you, Mr. Lippert, if you'd like some.
Oh, thanks.
Could you tell us your name and spell your first and last name, please?
My name is Thomas Lippert. It's spelled Thomas, Lippert.
Okay, and I'm going to have you take the little sort of triangular microphone that's right next to you there, because your voice is a little soft. Where do you live? What city?
Seattle, Washington.
And how long have you lived in Seattle?
About 6.5 years.
Where did you go to school?
Seattle Pacific University.
When did you graduate?
June of 2015.
What did you major in?
Computer science.
And what are you doing now?
I'm a software engineer too at Nordstrom.
When you were attending Seattle Pacific University, did you know someone named Paul Lee?
We were acquaintances.
Okay, how did you know him?
We were both in Annie-Up, our school's hip-hop dance club.
Oh, okay. It's Anti-Up? Is that?
Anti-Up, yes.
Okay. So was it an extracurricular club? Something
Yeah.
like that? Could you describe a little bit about what it entailed?
It was mostly about getting people such as myself who didn't really have a lot of hip-hop dance experience, but were maybe like too intimidated to try it in a different setting, to just take some kind of casual classes and learn, and sort of a gateway to get into the dance.
Okay. So you knew him from that. Did you know where he was from originally?
Oh, no. No, it was mostly, I'd mostly just see him there in a really casual way. I don't know if we even had a conversation. Just like, oh, yeah, there's Paul.
Okay. So on June 5th of 2014, which is when the shooting happened, had you plans with Paul coming up?
Only in the sense that we were both a part of the club, but not in the sense that we had some one-on-one plans that was just exclusive to us.
Okay. Where were you when the shooting happened?
I was in the computer lab in Otto Miller Hall.
And is that on the first or the second floor?
It is on the second floor.
And can you describe what the computer lab is for in Otto Miller?
A lot of the Otto Miller majors require, I guess, beefier computational power for modeling, or just just domain-specific software that requires better computers than you would find, say, in the library or elsewhere. So, although all students can use it, it's really intended for, as I recall, for those majors to be able to do stuff that would be harder on other computers. It is also a place where you can get tutoring for some intro to computer science courses.
Okay. Do you want to?
Sure, it's
105,
106 for the mark.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what's been marked States Exhibit 105 and 106. First of all, can you look at 105 and tell us what that shows?
105 shows the entrance to the computer lab.
So just the nameplate that's on
Just the nameplate to to the computer lab, the room number.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And then 106?
This is a photo of the computer lab.
And what were you doing in there?
I think I was just going to finish some program I had. Finals week was coming up, so I think it was just finishing a final assignment.
Did you have a lot of classes in Otto Miller? Is that where the computer science is?
Virtually all of the computer science classes were there, and a lot of related courses as well.
Have I offered these, but I don't think I did.
Very
Sorry.
good.
I'm offering 105 and 106.
No objection.
It's been a long day. Thank you. Okay, so 105 just shows the nameplate on the door that goes into the computer lab, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And 106 is that the entire computer lab, or is that just part of it?
There's a small portion that's off screen.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay. Now, on the day that this happened, on June 5th, when you were in the computer lab, what sort of drew your attention to the fact that something bad had happened?
A student entered the computer lab. I don't remember her name, and she said, if I recall correctly, something along the lines of, they're shooting people outside, or someone has been shot outside, or he shot someone.
So what did you do?
Well, initially, we were having a difficult time parsing what she just said, because it was like, it's such a strange thing to hear. So we were saying, we just asked her to elaborate. Like, were they shooting film? Were they shooting? Lots of students like to have Nerf gun battles with the foam darts, and so we said, "Oh, is someone playing a game or something?"
Mm-hmm.
So first, we just asked her to elaborate.
Okay. And once you got elaboration, did you understand it was the real thing?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How many people were in the lab with you? About less than a dozen?
I don't recall exactly, but under a dozen. Yeah.
Okay. So what did you do at that point?
Immediately, there was kind of fumbling to get the room secured. There are electronic locks on the room because lots of students scan in after hours to work on projects. Mm-hmm. And so we weren't, so there isn't, as I recall, there wasn't an actual physical knob that we could turn and sort of visually verify that it was locked. So anyway, we fumbled to secure the room.
How did you do it?
I think we pushed a table. So there was two entrances to the room.
Okay.
And if I recall correctly, we pushed a table against both, one table per door. We sort of upended them. And,
Okay.
yeah.
And then where did you position yourselves?
I think everyone got on the ground, although a couple students were sort of pushing the tables against the doors. Yeah.
Is there any sort of media or TV or anything in that room that was telling you what was going on?
Yes, there are these clocks, these digital clocks on the walls that both tell the time and also occasionally relay messages.
Okay. And it had relayed a message that there was a problem?
Yes.
Oh, just, thank you. And do you remember what the message said? Just generally?
It said there was a lockdown, and I believe also that it was not a drill.
Okay.
I don't remember much more than that.
What was the mood in the room at that point?
Well, while we were securing it, it hadn't really hit us emotionally because we had this immediate problem to solve. But then once we had secured the room and things kind of settled, then there was time to kind of think about what was happening. And that's when things became more traumatic and frightening, and all the emotions.
Right, because you didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Any other reason?
Sure.
Okay. Did you call 911?
I did. I called 911 2 different times.
Okay, and what did you use to do that?
My cell phone.
How did you get elected to be the one to call 911?
There was no formal election process. I had heard about this bystander effect thing where everyone assumes that everyone else has called 911, and I didn't know what was going on outside, so I thought maybe no one has yet, so I have to, and so yeah.
Okay. So, do you remember making those calls?
I do recall them. Yeah.
Okay. And how is it that you made 2 separate calls?
Well, they asked me to stay on the line initially, if I recall correctly, and I wanted to call my sister to make sure that she was indoors and safe and everything.
Does she live in that area?
She did. She was staying in Ashton Hall, one of SPU's dorms.
On SPU?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you called again after?
Oh, right. Yeah. So they asked me to stay on the line, and then I said, sorry, I need to call my sister, but I'll call back. And so then after I'd called my sister, I called back, and then they had me remain on the line for
A long time.
for the rest of the time.
Okay.
And finally filling in the previous sequence gap, this is State's Exhibit 98.
For 98. Correct.
Is it admitted?
Have you heard this since you made the call?
No.
A little anxious about hearing it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the sound may be off.
What are you reporting?
Hi, I'm at Seattle Pacific University.
Yep.
There are reports that there's someone with a gun who shot someone on campus. I didn't.
We do have a report of it. Okay. Are you somewhere in the? Are you somewhere safe? Are you
in Arbor Miller Hall?
okay?
There's no windows and we're sitting all up against the door. So
Okay. I would advise you to stay inside right now. Okay. Can you see anything or hear anyone from where you are?
no, we can't see or hear anything. We're all inside.
Okay. Is anybody injured from where you are?
No, there's no one injured in the room that I'm in right now.
Okay. All right. Do you hear a gunman or anybody yelling or shouting?
I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything.
Okay. What level are you on We don't know where the person is with the gun right now, okay? I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Okay. What was your first name again? I'm sorry?
My name is Thomas Lippert.
Okay.
I'd like to call my sister. Can I? She's also close to the school. Can I?
Okay. If you feel safe getting off the phone with me, absolutely, Thomas, okay? But I want, you're in the second floor. What room are you in?
I think we're in the OMH 253.
OMH 253, okay. How many people are in there with you?
One second. I think there's 7 people.
Okay. What are you hearing now that you're whispering?
We're just trying to be quiet.
Okay. Please do that. Okay.
I don't think hear anything right now.
Okay. Okay. I want you to do what you feel is safe. If you folks don't want to stay in the classroom, I will be advised, we did hear that there was a shooting. We don't know where the shooter is right now. Okay, we haven't heard any more shots calls. Okay, so I want you to do whatever you need to do to be safe, okay? And if you want to hang up the phone with me to call your sister, please do so, okay? I have your cell phone at 775-297-1036.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, and then at that point, were you able to call your sister?
I was.
Okay, and was she on campus?
I believe she was in her dorm room already.
Okay.
What are you reporting?
Hi, I'm an SBU student. I'm in Automiller Hall 253. We have the doors all boarded, but there's somebody outside the room. Ask me if there's anyone in here. You're really quiet, but he keeps knocking on the door.
Okay, you're on which room?
Automiller Hall 253.
Room 253. Okay. Can you see who the male is, or is there a...
No, there's no window.
Okay, hold on. Let me get my radio dispatcher. Radio, I have a caller inside of SBU at the Otto Miller Hall. He's in room 253. There's no windows on that door. Somebody's knocking on the door asking if anyone is inside.
Okay, are they saying who they are? Like, are they saying they're the police?
No.
Okay.
No, they just, is anyone in there?
Okay, update the call operator. Okay, because not really any way for me to tell right now if
If it's officer.
right.
Okay.
Maybe stand on 10 for a little bit.
Will do. Okay, I'm going to keep you on the phone with me, okay? How many people do you have inside?
I think 7.
7 people? Okay. We have officers on scene. I want you to know that there are officers at the school in the Otto Miller Hall, okay? Just we can't verify if the person outside the door is an officer or not.
Okay.
What's your last name, sir?
Lippert, L-I-P-P-E-R-T. I called the one.
Okay. And your first name?
Thomas.
Thomas.
F-O-S.
You're Thomas. Is anyone injured inside?
No, everyone's fine.
Okay.
Sorry, I think there's actually 8 people in this room.
8 people? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's 8. Oh, there's 9. There's actually 9.
9 people? Okay.
Yeah.
want, if there's any other bad guys outside the room, I don't want your phone ringing and alerting him, okay?
Okay, Thomas, the length of that tape is 38 minutes. Does that sound right to you?
Sounds short.
The whole time were you on the line with the operator?
Yeah.
Okay, and eventually, what happened?
Eventually, SWAT came and got us.
And let you out of the room?
Yeah.
Okay. If I could just a moment. I have nothing else, thank you.
Cross-examination?
No questions, sure.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lippert. You're all done. All right, members of the jury, that concludes our day for today. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 minutes to 9. We'll start with another witness. So if you leave your notebooks in the chairs, please. Please don't discuss the case, read, see, watch anything about this case.